Hello, everybody, and welcome to the EJC podcast, also known as the Environmental Justice Cast, brought to you from Grand High School Environmental Justice Club. My name is Valeria. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior at Grant, and I am the host for today, one of the hosts, and the organizer. Brady, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Valeria. My name is Brady Yuen, and I am a sophomore in high school. I go by he, him pronouns. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Beatrice.
Thank you. My name is Beatrice, and I go by she, her pronouns. And I'm a sophomore at Grant, and I am kind of a researcher for the podcast, but I'm still figuring out my role. And I will pass it to Lucia. I don't know if you've gone yet, but
My name is Lucia. I am a freshman. I go by she, her pronouns, and I work mainly on outreach and editing for the podcast. Um, Today we have two guests, Robin and Malina. Robin, you can introduce yourself first.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Robin. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm a freshman at Grant. And my involvement with EJC, I primarily work with the creative team as one of kind of like the four captains of that team. And I will pass it on to Melina.
Hi, my name is Malina. I also use she, her pronouns, and I'm a freshman at Grant. And yeah, in the Environmental Justice Club, I kind of work with like the actions team, and right now, we're sort of talking about Earth Day and our plans for that.
All right, it's nice to have you guys here. Thank you so much for on our very first episode. For the first question, how can someone get involved with Grant Environmental Justice Club? It, and if they're not a part of Grant, are there other ways that they can get involved with environmental justice in general?
I think probably one of the easiest ways to get involved, especially for high school students, would be through Instagram. So the Grant EJC Club does have a Instagram account. It's at GHS Environmental Justice. And basically, you can DM that account for more information on how to get involved, or use the Zoom link that we have in the bio of that account to join one of the meetings. But yeah, that's the easiest way to get involved at Grant. But I would say for other schools, I know that most high schools in PPS and even middle schools already have environmental justice clubs set up. So, sort of maybe looking into that on like your school's website or asking around to classmates about if your school has an EJC club, I guess would be a good way to start. Or looking into youth programs such as Sunrise PDX, which I know Robin, the other guest, has really close connections to. Sunrise is a really great program that's super easy to get involved with, especially for teens. So yeah, I think those would be my tips for if you want to sort of like activate yourself and yeah, get involved.
Yeah, those are all really good ideas, Melina, and I agree with all of them. Um, just kind of going off of what Melina said about Sunrise PDX. Sunrise PDX is a part of the youth climate movement, Sunrise National, and Sunrise PDX is the branch here in Portland. So that's another great way to get involved in the environmental justice movement. It's a great community full of really passionate people, and it doesn't matter if you're experienced or not, anybody can join. It's just a great community. And I guess what I would add is kind of just doing research on your own time if you're not sure where to start. Just start with the basics and learn what environmental justice is and try to immerse yourself in what it is as a subject so you can learn more about it and then go from there.
Thank you guys. That was great. And yeah, Sunrise is I'm part of Sunrise as well, and the people there are very nice and are doing some great things.
Okay, so how did you guys first become interested and involved in like environmental activism and causes and like what like inspired you to get into this work and like yeah.
As people may know, we're in Portland, Oregon, and this September of 2020, the wildfires really hit us hard, harder than before. And it was just really, it was scary. The skies were just completely gray. It was like an apocalypse. And I remember after that kind of cleared up and we were kind of going into winter, I was just terrified and I didn't know what to do. And I knew that the reason those fires had happened was because of global warming and climate change, but that just felt like surface knowledge. So I kind of went the internet rabbit hole and found Sunrise actually after doing a bunch of Googling. And so I joined Sunrise and I've kind of just grown from there and learned a lot about the environmental justice movement and what I can do to try to prevent those same fires from getting worse and hopefully stop them in the near future. Yeah.
Um, for me personally, I got involved through, I guess through school actually. I attended Harriet Tubman Middle School, which is a school that sits like directly next to one of the biggest parts of Interstate 5, a major freeway runs through Portland, and sort of being up close to that pollution and seeing the effects that the emissions from those cars had on students every day, like myself or my classmates, um, sort of made me like think deeper about, I guess. I mean, like I knew about climate change. I knew that it was this big global issue that was obviously hurting and affecting people around the world. But sort of seeing like how pollution like that can affect people in my community and seeing those instances up close really sort of made me want to get involved in sort of stopping, I guess, fighting the freeway that we had to go to school so close to, or preventing more emissions like that from affecting kids across the state as well. So yeah, that's kind of how I got involved with the environmental activism movement.
Um, yeah, so how I got involved was, I was just kind of interested, you know, and I wanted to help my community out by doing something right and fighting for something that's, you know, global. Um, that's a global movement. And yeah, I mean, this past summer, the wildfires, you know, yeah, it was very scary. And I just thought, man, you know, we need to do something about it. And that's how I joined EGC and got involved with it. But other reason was I was interested too, and I was up for helping and stuff like that.
Lucia, Beatrice, do you want to answer this question too? It's really interesting to hear everyone's responses.
Okay, yeah, I can answer the question. So I remember I went to kind of a more like I would say hippie middle school. I didn't really go to my um immediate like neighborhood school. And so I got a lot of, environmental like outdoor education throughout my years in like elementary school and middle school. So I was kind of always surrounded by it. And my dad is also a really big like environmental activist and he always has been. So I was kind of, brought up to be pretty environmentally conscious and something that like we talk about a lot in my household is like our carbon footprint and how we can like lessen that. So it was kind of something that I always was like aware of, but up until like 8th grade, I went to my first like climate strike, and everyone left school and we marched and we went to the PPS building and like demanded that students like across PPS were getting an adequate like climate change education, because it's really important to have that in like our curriculum. um and that's really what like got me into it, and I just felt really inspired being there, and felt like that was something that could make change, that was making like news across the world at that time, and that was like 2018, I think. And I just kept going to a lot of protests, and then I joined EJ this year because I was just really interested in it, and I think we do a lot of cool things. So, yeah.
For me, I agree with Beatrice. I think that I have always been aware of the topic. Um, I always wanted to like learn and spread information. I also went to Harriet Tubman Middle School, and there was a lot of activism there. And for me, when we went into an online school, it was more of a perfect time for me to join the club. And from there, yeah, I've just learned a lot more and been involved more.
Wow. It's so interesting to hear the similarities, but it in your guys' stories, especially um, in an area like Portland. And yeah, going back to what Robin was saying, I also remember last summer the sky was on fire. I mean, it wasn't on fire, the trees were on fire, but it looked like the sky was on fire and it was apocalyptic. And there are so many scenes like that that we see year after year, month after month, and it's crazy. Coming from Miami, right? There were hurricanes over there, not so much wildfires, but those were every now and then. What you see every day is what got me involved because you see people, right? And the way that they treat the environment. And what got me into environmental justice um, was just, wanting to make people more aware of their actions in every day and how that contributes on a larger scale. Also, wanting to know what I can do to fight back against that. All right, next question.
The question is solving climate change an individual or a more collective effort?
Oh, I got this question asked on my Instagram by an old friend of mine who hasn't reached out in a while. Random tangent, but I thought that was interesting. Robin, do you want to start?
Yeah. So this is something that I've learned a lot about in Sunrise specifically, but fighting environmental crises is a very collective effort. Like the idea of fighting on something that is such a huge issue by yourself, it's really scary and it can be really overwhelming. And so that's why the environmental justice movement as a whole is a very collective sort of movement. It's a very large community and everybody is very passionate about the same thing. So we all come together and fight collectively. And kind of going back to what I said about it being scary by yourself, I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important to realize that it's not something you're fighting by yourself. There are so many people across the globe that acknowledge this crisis that is threatening our future, and it's really important to see that you really are not fighting it individually. It's a very collective fight that is full of lots of passionate people who will stand by your side even if it gets overwhelming and scary. Um, And something I will touch on very quickly is also the idea of collective liberation, which is kind of the idea that if one of us is not free, then the rest of us are not free. And kind of within this movement specifically, environmental justice is racial justice, and the climate crisis affects so many people, but it disproportionately affects people of color. And so, in the fight for collective liberation, we are not free until everybody affected by this crisis is free. And so, that collective liberation, like it says in the name, is also a collective fight, and it plays a huge part in the fight for environmental justice. And I think that's also a good thing to remember about this fight as well.
To me, solving climate change is a collective effort because all these other really huge global movements around the world, it takes courage and it takes lots and lots of people. With that many people behind with the climate crisis, we can all make a bigger voice and our voice will be, our voices are louder and louder and louder and it makes all the difference and all the change.
Melina, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I totally agree with everything that Brady and Robin said. Like the amazing, one of the most amazing things about, I guess, being involved with and even just observing the environmental and climate justice movement is how global it is, and the intersectionality um, that you can kind of see within the movement is amazing to me. And yeah, how much support there really is from everyone that you kind of that I at least that I've been able to meet through this, whether it's like you guys at the EJC or people at Sunrise or any other organization. And for sure, like there's nothing we cannot accomplish anything, by just one person making a stand. I mean, obviously individual acts are important, but when they're really noticed, it's when people sort of come together and are able to get the attention of like a global audience, a citywide audience, or even just raise awareness within your own community. Like that's how changes can be made. So yeah, I would definitely say that sort of fighting climate change or any sort of environmental activism has to be um, a collective movement. And yeah, we can't accomplish anything with just individuals. We definitely have to come together.
So true. I mean, that's why it's a myth. That's why I think that word is brought up a lot because, you know, it's a movement until more people join. If just one person's upset, then no one's going to do anything about it.
Yeah. I definitely think it's a collective effort because as like individual acts are super important too, like making your home more sustainable and limiting, single plastic use. And we hear about that kind of stuff all the time, but we can do that. But I think coming together and protesting and it gets a lot more press and you're going to get a lot more people to care about it because there's still people who are climate deniers and there's still people in office and our president who just aren't really taking that much action. And I think it's important to have it be a collective effort so there's more talk and people are more motivated to actually get things done because I think a lot of the time, like, I don't know if someone said this already, but the like blame can be put on individuals for what's happening to our climate, but I think it's not really. I think it's the corporations and fast fashion and the meat industry and all those big things that are admitting to this problem a lot more than individuals.
Definitely. It's much harder for the individual to um, make conscious decisions than it is for the corporations that essentially control everything that the individual has access to.
I really agree about it being a collective. I do think that the individual effort is important because it inspires the people close in your circle to do the little things, which raises awareness and starts more conversations. So little things like that are going to grow the collective, which is super important. You all said it. The more people there are, the more we're going to be hurt.
Yeah, we basically all said it. The collective effort is definitely at the forefront, but it's made up of individuals. Speaking of collective efforts, Rob and Melina, so there is a rally on Friday or later today when this is going to be posted. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah. So basically, I guess I'll do a quick rundown of what's happening. So Harriet Tubman, which Lucy and I guess both mentioned earlier, sits right like just 30 feet from one of the busiest parts of Interstate 5. And currently, there's an almost $1 billion proposal from Oregon's Department of Transportation, also known as ODOT, that will add even more lanes to the section of I-5 that is specifically right next to Tubman. And this is super concerning because of, well, essentially more lanes means more cars. And more cars means more emissions and pollution that will be affecting the surrounding Albina, Elliott, and Tubman communities, the neighborhoods that are in that area. So recently, our friends at an organization called More Freeways PDX dropped a lawsuit on ODOT that will force ODOT to conduct a full environmental impact statement or EIS on their project. And we're hoping that an EIS would help sort of expose how much like added lanes to I-5 will truly affect the community and expose the true like damage it will cause to the lungs of all the children, um, elderly, and anyone who is in that area. So to commemorate like the huge moment in our movement that this lawsuit represents, there will be a rally held actually tomorrow, this Friday, which is April 9th at 5 p.m. at Harriet Tubman Middle School. Um, and the rally will be properly social distanced, and we'll have several speakers there who will be really exciting to hear. I'm on personally just super excited to hear everyone at the event, and there'll be snacks, and it's going to be a really family friendly event. But yeah, basically the rally is to support the opposition against the I-5 expansion project. Sorry. So yeah, that's happening tomorrow, and anyone that can come out, it would be amazing to see you there. You can access more information on it at No More Freeways PDX on Instagram. And yeah, it'd be lovely to see as many people as possible there.
I will put a link to their website in the description. Robin, do you know? I know that you're part of Sunrise and that they're um, backing this rally. Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I guess that kind of sums it up. I think Sunrise is really there. We've kind of been a few people from Sunrise have been working on planning this rally with No More Freeways PDX, and as you could tell from what Melina was talking about, this is a really big issue, and it's something that we all need to come together to fight against. And Sunrise has been trying to contribute as much as they can to help put this event together. And yeah, I guess I'll just say, like Melina, I hope that we can see as many people there as possible. Yeah, it's really exciting, and I hope some of y'all come.
Definitely. Um, I hope that it's successful. And again, that is from 5 to 7 at Harriet Tubman Middle School. So, should we end on that note? So, our next episode will be every Friday, next Friday. But if it's not, then it will be said. I'll put something out on Instagram at Starships and at the Environmental Justice Club, GHS Instagram.
Thank you, Valeria, for hosting mainly. Thank you. Also, if anyone has anything they want to ask or suggest, then yeah, the Grant EJC Instagram DMs are open for that. If you want to be on the podcast for anything, yeah, please message us there would be best.
I just want to say thank you guys for having us on the podcast. This is really enjoyable, and yeah, congrats on the first episode.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank-
Yeah, thank you, Robin and Melina, for sharing with us about the protest.
Thank you guys for coming on and sharing. You guys provided a lot of useful information and perspective. So thank you.
And a big thank you to my co hosts. Yes, I think that is all. And thank you for listening.